Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my friends, wherever in this world you may be, whichever corporate office you may be watching this from, whichever home office you may be watching this from, whichever creepy basement you may be watching this from. I've been working really hard to grow the show demographic among the creepy basement dwellers, and I think we're doing great, honestly. I'm feeling really good about that. Welcome to another episode of 40 Going on 4. The show that helps you reconnect with that inner child you lost in a custody battle back in 1994 or something. Today, I have an amazing guest, the great, the one, the only, the founder of the Slow Down Club, the great Christian Fleck. Chris, what's up, buddy?
Oh man, I'm so sweaty, and I don't know if it's my anxiety, my excitement, or just the heat here in Bulgaria. Probably it's to be really honest, I think it's probably a mix of all three.
I can dig that. As anybody watching
Yeah.
back home can tell, Chris has an amazing accent. He's born and raised in Tennessee, and actually, Chris is a native of the great land of Vienna, Austria, the beautiful city of Vienna, Austria. Now, I brought Christian on today for a number of reasons. Aside from the fact that he's a brilliant guy and just an amazing human and has all kinds of awesome insights to share, I thought it was important to do a service to help rehabilitate the image of Austria in the minds of Americans, especially because when we think of Austria, we tend to think of just one person, this megalomaniac who wanted to change the world by force. But we're not here today to talk about Schwarzenegger. We are here to talk about the present moment. Chris, talk to me, brother. Why do we not live in the present moment?
Because I was actually thinking about this before we started the show. Why do we get lost in past and future, and why it's so difficult to be present? Because we did not learn, and when I say we, I'm very much aware I'm generalizing. So because there are always the ones who are like, yeah, but I'm different. Yes, of course, I get it. But for the sake of the generalization that I give myself permission to do, because we did not learn, neither in school nor from our parents, how to handle fear. And we've come up with this idea that fear is something bad, that fear is something that I need to run away from, or in a broader term, fear equals discomfort, right? When there is discomfort, we are somehow taught to, oh, this is not good. So we give it a negative connotation, and then we either fight it with a lot of force and power, which has an underlying energy of, I don't want it, I don't accept it, so it needs to somehow go away. Kind of like trying to smash the thing with a hammer. Mm. And the other side of it is, we did not learn that fear is, we see in the comments, fear is motivation. Fear can be, the way how I see it is, fear is a signpost just saying, this, whatever situation is happening right now, needs your full attention. Okay?
Yeah.
And we did not learn that, because it's a big difference to saying that, say I'm afraid of, what am I afraid of right now? I'm thinking.
Your internet crapping out right now, and the frozen image of Chris looking like this.
Yeah.
And just holding that for like 45 seconds.
Yeah. And you can, I'm sure the attention was quite high in that moment. Yeah. No, I was trying to come up with something that I'm afraid of, and right now nothing came up. But for, let's say, death. Let's say I'm scared of death, and then there is this kind of like, oh, I don't want it, so I just live and do everything all the time, and I keep myself very busy because I'm scared of missing stuff. Or I look at it through the lens of, oh, there is actually fear of death.
Yeah.
And I can look at it through the lens of, that's very interesting. So I see it, I acknowledge it, I stay with it, even though it's really uncomfortable. And then I can see, hey, what is this like? What is this telling me? What's on the signpost? And maybe on the signpost is you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Or maybe on the signpost is you better eat healthy food, because we were talking about this before, than going to some fast food chain every day. Maybe it's that. But this moment of staying with the discomfort helps us to find the direction, basically to look at the signpost, because the signpost is there. But if we are just reacting and not responding, we don't see the signpost. And I think that's the reason why we get lost in the past and the future, because the way how our brains are wired, sorry, like I'm sweating like crazy.
Bulgarian summers, man. If I had a nickel, I'm telling you.
Yeah. And the way we are wired is we are somehow we're trying to escape negative situations that we perceive and evaluate as negative. And then it's very easy to get caught up in, oh, let's ruminate about something in the past. Oh, let's ruminate about something in the future. And one thought regarding the future, especially the future, is so perfect to escape to, because it didn't happen yet. And then we create these beautiful fantasies and like these beautiful movies in our head that are telling us whatever. And it's so nice to stay up there and to chill and to I'm in a very challenging situation. Maybe I really need to fix my relationship to make this more concrete, or maybe I'm facing a divorce, or maybe I don't know. I'm about to, or I should have this argument, this very, very serious conversation. And then instead of preparing for it, because that would be being discomfortable, we go, no, let's think about something in the future. But the thing is, we are escaping what is, because we are not taking full responsibility, and we did not trying to be not too judgmental with ourselves. And I'm obviously guilty of that too, because we don't take responsibility for what is in the present moment, and we suffer because we want the moment to be different than to what it is.
That's a great point, man. And that's something I think a lot of us struggle with. And, Natalia has a great comment here, and I want to dig into this. Let's jump right in. So she says, we cannot live in the present because we don't feel it. We don't perceive it. The past is our experience. The only thing we know for sure. The future is unclear. And I think that talks to that discomfort that we feel. So if we feel any kind of discomfort right now, maybe, like you said, there's a relationship discussion we have to have. Maybe it's a financial situation. Maybe we just realized we ate the chicken tender, but it wasn't cooked all the way through. Feel that in our guts, man. And we just know, okay, this is going to be uncomfortable, and we're wired to not be uncomfortable. So how do we get the hell out of here? Now, do you think maybe that's a fight or flight mechanism because of that discomfort? And we have another comment here too. I just want to put this out there of Uncle Screw. Now, I know George is always dropping the good ones here, man, but Chris, what do you think here of the wise words of Uncle Screwtape? The safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. I think that's the most profound thing anybody has ever shared on this program. I just want to let that marinate for a second.
Yeah,
George,
I want
to.
Let's muse and marinate.
Let's slow down, as you would say. And, I want to talk about the Slow Down Club, because this is something that you founded, and I love the idea. Remember, we talked about this a while ago when we connected. Why don't you share with us what the Slow Down Club is, what caused you to start it, and how that really relates into this idea of leaning into the present moment?
Yeah. So let me tell you the full story. A couple of years ago, I started working self-employed as a coach around mindfulness and meditation. And then I was working under my own brand, so to say. And for whatever reason, probably because I have a very strong affinity to brands, but I don't like these first name, surname names like Calvin Klein, or I don't like them so much. don't really know why, but I rather like something more generic that is disconnected from a name. So 4 years ago, I said it would be so nice to have a name have a generic brand. This was always in the back of my head. And then I couldn't come up with something, which was fine. What I did then is I just continued working, and I had conversation after conversation after conversation with all kinds of people, really, with CEOs, with board members, with students, with unemployed people, with homeless people. Like I talked to anyone. And I don't remember the exact moment, so I don't want to lie to you.
You could lie to me, that's fine.
Yeah, like, so there was this one moment, I woke up, it was 6 a.m. in the morning, blah, blah, bullshit. And I realized there is a common thread in this story. Like, there is a common thread in everything that everyone told me. And the common thread was, to be really honest, Chris, I know it would be very beneficial for me to slow things down a bit, to take a moment to acknowledge, oh, where am I actually? What am I doing? How am I feeling? What's present? What is right now? But for some reason, I don't do it. But deep down, I know it. And then I was like, interesting. If everyone tells me that this is some situation that they are faced with, then why don't you do it? And then I just asked them, like, why don't you do it? And then they came up with all the, like, people say what they say, like, I don't have time, I started, but then I stopped, it's so difficult, I can't do it alone. And me being someone who I used to play football or soccer, as you guys say. I used to play football for over 10 years. I was a goalkeeper. And so I always knew from my very early childhood on how it is to be a member of a club. And then at one point I connected these two ideas. So the one idea was people are somehow craving something that is so, to be really honest, to me this is so evident that this is needed in the world. There is no discussion about it. I really believe that we need to slow down if we want this planet to survive for our future generations. I really believe that. And then, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, please continue.
Yeah, all right. And then I was like, so I think what people lack or what people long for is, and I just said it in the word, is belonging. And if you are in a club, say if you are part of FC Barcelona or the LA Lakers, or it doesn't matter, you get that sense of belonging. So then I was thinking, what if you create this club for all the people who want to slow down together? And this is how the idea, this is when I came up with the idea last year, actually. And I wanted to launch it much, much earlier, but because of a very big mental challenge this year and also end of last year, it got postponed a little bit, which is so ironic because my very dear friend Mir from Turkey, he said, this was the ultimate test for the Slow Down Club. Can the founder slow down fully and then speed up again?
It's the universe, man. It's openly asking you, how much do you really want this? Because you're talking a good game. It sounds great in theory. You're getting people excited about it. But we're going to put you to the test specifically and see, can you practice what you preach? And can you actually slow down into the moment? So when this challenge hit you, how did you find yourself responding? Because I think a lot of us out there, and anybody in the comments who has a story to share, we'd love to see it, of when you feel life it's like a runaway train. It's like that line from the Birdcage, and Robin Williams said, I feel like I'm riding a psychotic horse through a burning stable. It just feels like that at times. And by the way, if you've never ridden a psychotic horse through a burning stable, highly recommend it. Very underrated experience. You'll have great pictures and videos for years to come. Show the grandkids. It's awesome. So Chris, talk to us, man. How did you work through that when that resistance hit you?
So I think it's that's what I'm about to say is is not because I want to glorify my personal experience. I know that in this process, every experience is completely different, and even what I'm going to share, this even has like, I don't know, thousands of different variations how that could manifest in someone's life. But I was diagnosed with medium depression, so clinical depression, so that the people who are watching can get a bit of a sense of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a mental challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did, and to be honest, I'm really grateful that I embarked on the journey of mindfulness meditation a couple of years ago, and that I really did a lot of work, and I did almost now already 4 silent meditation retreats where I really like practice in depth. I just decided to stop very early on. So even though I felt like crap, and this is how you feel like you can't do anything, you can't, I don't know if you have any experience with this kind of thing.
I have hoed this road, my friend. So
yeah. And maybe some of the people who are with us right now can rode this road too, or know someone who did. The most amazing thing about this is that almost everyone that experiences depression knows it right away. Like, you know it, you see it, but you can't change it. There is nothing you can do about it. There are days like you just wake up, and your biggest achievement is that you make it into the horizontal, into the vertical, right?
Yeah.
That you just stand up. It can be that bad. And luckily, I was in a mental state that I said, okay, now you fully prioritize only yourself, unapologetically. And I don't think I've ever cared for myself as much as I did this spring. And then I just try to look at it actually from a very objective perspective and say, okay, what is? I really don't like it, but I just knew, and I have to say, obviously, because of the support of my friends, of my family, of my partner, who were supporting me beyond my wildest expectations, to be honest. I'm really, really grateful for them.
That's beautiful.
Then I somehow decided that, coming back to your question, and I know we have a limited amount of time also.
Rock and roll, man. Let us have it. Whatever
the biggest thing for me was really to accept that I am this guy who did so much of inner work, who did so much of mindfulness meditation, which is a tool to help you stay very, very resilient and very stable. And that all of a sudden this hits you, and then all of a sudden you are this guy who just feels so worthless, so unworthy.
Yeah.
And you lay in your bed and you're like, I can't do anything. I cannot contribute anything worthy to society. And then I was confronted with one of the best questions I was ever confronted with, which was, can you be okay just being?
I thought the question was going to be, what would you do for a Klondike bar? But that's a good question too. That's an excellent question too.
Yeah.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
It's a great one. And how did you respond to that question when that was going through your mind? Like, what was the impulse?
To be honest, to be really honest with you, first I was resisting it so much, and I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. And then I called my meditation teacher, and we had a 1-hour chat, and he was somehow offering me the hand, and I was able to take it. And I said, okay, because he was just reminding me, he didn't do a lot of things, but he was just reminding me of the fact that everything is coming and going and nothing is permanent. And I know this, but I needed to hear it again. I needed to hear it at a time when I was very much struggling. And then all of a sudden I decided to, okay, what if I am enough by just being? What if this is enough? And then I realized, asking myself this what if question, which is a brilliant thing to do, asking what if, because it brings us into the realm. What if? Yeah, it brings us into the realm of possibility. And then I was thinking, yeah, what if it's okay? And well, why not? Right?
Why not? I think you've answered Mark's question here, which is a great one. What do you do when you stumble, whether that's falling back into depression or you make a mistake in a relationship or job? How do you get back up when you fall down? And I think you really hit on something very powerful it's that moment of acceptance of what is, and this is what is right now. It doesn't mean this is what is going to be. And this is where we come back in the present. It's just accepting, and it's almost blessing it. It's like, okay, I see you. I got you. Yesterday was that kind of a day for me. And I felt the same thing you did, man, which was, God, I feel like I've done all this work and I've come all this way. And what the hell's wrong with me? I feel like I have a show about how to get the answers to these questions. And I'm totally rudderless today. Yeah. And you feel like an idiot. You feel like you've backslid to the very beginning of the line. But then you realize when you're climbing a mountain, you're going to trip on one of those wet pebbles and you're going to fall down a few, but you're not going to come all the way back down to the base. You're going to come back down like 2 levels. I think it's important in those moments to collect yourself, accept that the stumble happened because it's not a straight line climb, and then look all the way down at the bottom of the mountain and realize how far you really actually have come and count those wins.
Yeah. What you what you said just reminded me. What I did, a practice, and I can highly recommend this, is to start hugging yourself, man. To give yourself a really nice hug.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You froze for a second,
no, so I was
bantering a little bit. So I'm sorry. So start that again. You said give yourself a
hug. Okay. Give yourself a nice hug. And it's very, very interesting. So in traditional Chinese medicine and in some of the other Eastern healing arts, I know this a bit because I'm studying healing arts for a couple of years now. They say that the hand is the extension of the heart. Yeah. I think this is the reason why could be a reason why people love holding hands so much, because of that connection. And you're connecting 2 hearts, which is kind of a nice idea.
I think 13-year-old boys would certainly agree with you on that one. But
yeah.
Never said this show was PG, and if that bothers you, you can knock.
And then you just, you give yourself you give yourself a nice hug. And then Mujgan Hali says it. Self-love is the key. And the thing about the self-love is we don't need to be complete in order to love ourselves. It's about the intention and it's about the small action that you do. And that already is 100% self-love. Because I hear so often people like, oh, I don't love myself enough yet. This point will never arrive.
Ever.
This will never, ever. I think this is the biggest illusion that we live in. That we're like, oh, if I'm in this state, then I'll be happy. If I'm, lose this much weight, I'll be happy. If I go there, then I'll be happy. No, because this is exactly the topic that we talk about today. There is only this moment right now, and I'm sitting here in Bulgaria, and you're sitting here in the US. And people are sitting or standing wherever they are. This is the reality. And this is also the totality.
This is all we've got. I think you really hit on something, which is there's never anything outside of the now, ever. It's just an illusion. And so much of our misery, I was thinking about this morning and leading up to this show today, and I'd love your perspective on this. And I was thinking of the past especially. And when we reach a certain point in life, we spend a lot of mental energy in the past. And I was just thinking, it doesn't matter whether we're nostalgically going over the best times of our lives in the past or whether we're living inside of past traumas. Either way, it leads to present misery, because if things were great in the past and all we're doing is thinking about how great things were in the past, we naturally compare that to the present and say, that was great and this sucks. And if things were really traumatic and difficult in the past, and we're ruminating on that too, we're rarely saying, and how lucky I am that I'm here today and out of that. You're not in that space. You're in the traumatic space of the past, which you brought into the present. So either way, living in the past is a recipe for misery. So what do you do when those past thoughts start coming up and creeping in and drag you back in there? How do you keep them at bay and keep yourself grounded right here?
That's a great question. That's a very great question. You touch on. Okay, you can go very very deep here. The thing is,
Do it.
we are familiar with the past and we are familiar with some future, but we are not so familiar, or we don't feel so secure in this uncertainty, and we give somehow more importance to the past, to the future, than to the bird chirping right next to us. But that's a question of our own evaluation, how we perceive the moment, and then how we judge. And what I like to do is to think of it like, if a thought comes, and it's really, if it comes the first time, then I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So I try to cultivate it. I try to look at it with this attitude of, and this is the way how I practice it, like, that's interesting. A thought, like, oh, again, as if you were watching a movie and writing the how you call it, like the commentary on the movie, like, or some evaluation, like, interesting. That's what the story. This is the story. And then something about the future. This is the story. And what I merge in between is, this is the story. For example, even right now, I'm seeing you not. This is the story. I acknowledge it. I give myself, that's so important, I give myself the permission to let it go. And I bring myself back to, hey, actually, I'm just sitting. I'm sitting here right now. Or I'm breathing. I'm being. All right. And now I see the black TV. That's not so good because I should pay attention to you. That's the story. Okay, I'm coming back. This is a practice. But over time, you're kind of like, especially like when you're in very challenged situations, or when you have fear about something, fear of, I don't know, my business might crumble, or what is happening with some war in the world, or political situation, doesn't matter. So there's so much of things that we actually cannot control. But what we can control is we can control where we give our attention and where we direct it to. This is something that I can always control. And the great thing is this quality of observing and directing attention, if we really, and you need to slow things down in order to acknowledge that, this quality it's eternally neutral. Like the quality that tells, like when I tell you to bring your attention, and I'm now just not doing it because of me, but for the sake of the experiment. When I tell you to bring your attention to listening to my voice, only to the voice, the quality of directing your attention to the voice, it is completely disconnected from time and space. And it is something very, very, very profound and very deep. And then when you can, the funny thing is you can see yourself focusing or bringing your attention to my voice. And then you can even go one level up. You can see yourself seeing yourself, right?
It's getting meta right now. I'm here for it. It's getting meta. I tell you something, man. If you have not recorded an entire podcast season of just your voice doing guided meditations, now's the time. And tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. You are a natural, brother. Like, you had me entranced just now, just listening to you talk.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And I mean that. Like, I'm
maybe I needed that. Maybe I needed this nudge.
I'm locked in, man. You have a gift for it, and not everybody has that gift. Some people, to lead a guided meditation, they have to have a shtick, like a Mets fan named Joey. But a lot of other people really have the natural gift, and you have that. But I think it's more than just the voice. Doesn't hurt, by the way. Got an awesome accent. But it's a presence that you bring. It's a grounded presence. And that's very, after 2020, I don't want to use the word contagious, but what the hell, I'll use the word contagious, because it's contagious. It is. It is, man. I know. I hate that word. But it is, though, man. And it's, so for those out there who have, now this is something I hear all the time. I can't slow down. I can't meditate. I can't quiet my mind. It's racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. How do you just bring it back in that one moment, what's one thing they can do to just chill it out for a second?
I would say it's so the easiest, the very, so I'm just gonna say what the one thing is that you can do, and then I might elaborate on the concept for 10 hours.
Well, before you do that, we have a request from the Peanut Gallery here. It's not my request. He wants you to say something.
But is it I can say that I'm here to pump you up.
There it is. It's done. Mark, it's done.
I'm here to pump.
Not like a dance monkey dance zoo show. This is we're here to talk about some serious stuff over here. But Chris, I appreciate that, man. And I know Mark appreciates it. I know all of our stateside audience appreciates it too. Ira, my man out in San Francisco, I know he appreciates it. We all do.
Oh, that's
I'm
amazing.
sorry. I took you off your train of thought. You were saying.
So the fundamental reason that I observe why people struggle with that is that we have this idea that we feel better if we don't have these thoughts. Yeah. So and if you're not thinking, you're either sleeping, you are completely fully in the zone, which means you are fully in the present moment, or you're dead.
That's interesting. Let's talk about that creating moment for a second, because this is something that I know you and I have experienced, and a lot of people in the comments have too. And anyone in the comments, if you've experienced this phenomenon, let's see it. I'd love to talk about this more. This idea of when you're creating, when you're truly in that creation state, doesn't matter what you're creating. Time just doesn't exist. It's the most incredible phenomenon. 1 minute could be an hour, 1 hour could be a day, and vice versa. And you lose yourself. Now, a lot of people who are high discuss the exact same phenomenon. And I don't think they're actually disconnected, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Maybe we'll have you back on. We'll talk about that. But it's what do you think about that? What do you think happens in that creative flow moment where you're just totally present in what you're doing?
So we are bringing our attention to the things, to the thing that is in front of us, and we kind of like we let go of say you run a marathon. There is this idea of the runner's high, right? And I did a couple of half marathons, and I can only tell you from my experience and from my conversations with athletes, they don't think about the finish line all the time. They might visualize the finish line, how it feels to cross the finish line, but then it's just like I'm doing step after step, stroke after stroke. That's what I'm doing, and that's all I'm doing. And when I finish the first one, I'm starting all over again. There is this saying that goes, we have a German saying, and I hope I can translate it properly. It goes, the path unfolds to the one who starts to do the first step.
Now say it in German.
So in German it's, dem Gehenden schiebt sich der Weg unter die Füße.
I like it so much better in German. I'm just telling you. It sounds so much more powerful in German, but and I think partially because that's the origin of the saying, but I love the spirit of it, man. I love the spirit of that. It's that we have a saying in English too, and I think it really leads into it is, motion creates emotion. And Natalia has a great comment here is, a creation moment is the only true time of living in the present. I think that's so true.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm going to leave that up here. Let that one marinate.
Let's marinate this one.
I want to be present with that comment.
It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing, Natalia. It's really nice.
That is it. Creation.
And then we can continue this, because if we say a creation moment is the only true time of living in the present, what if we treat every moment as if we would create it?
I love that more than I have the words in the English language or the German language or the Aramaic language to ever begin to describe. I don't speak Aramaic. I'm just dropping that in there because nobody speaks Aramaic, and that'd be a pretty cool party trick. But let's really dig into this one, because this is something I don't think ever gets talked about enough. And I think it's so central to who and what we are and how we live. The idea of every moment being a moment of creation. Now we think of creation, and I think LinkedIn, and I don't want to point fingers, but what the hell, I'll point fingers at you, LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I think LinkedIn creates this dichotomy between everybody and the creators, and they've exalted creators according to their own subjective criteria of what a creator is. We're all creators. Every moment of every single day, we are in a co-creation with each other. This entire experience, we are co-creating. And when we create, we're in flow. So what is an example you would use of creation that's not writing a book or running a marathon or painting something or building a software that we think of as creation? What is a more everyday example of creation?
Yeah. So two things come up. The first is most of us have some, and I hope, and I'm using it for the sake of this argument now, most of us have some loved ones that we talk to on a regular basis. Most of us. So one creation would be to actually listen to that person for 1 minute, but do it with the sense of I am creating. My intention is to create this space where I am just listening for 1 minute to my loved one, to my wife, to my husband, to my girlfriend, to my boyfriend. Because this is something that would not be if I wouldn't set the intention to do it. This is my understanding right now. Another example would be I'm sitting right now here because I like to sit on the floor. I don't know why we invented chairs.
It's comfortable.
Sitting.
Good for your back.
Is it?
Maybe. Let's go with that. I've just created
let's
my chiropractor might disagree, but
let's go with that.
Yeah.
And so what if I allow myself to be a bit more playful and say, what if my creation now is to really stand up and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like, what if I stand up and try to look like him or try to imitate his posture? This can also be a creation, right?
Yeah. Be a satire.
These are two examples that come to my mind. Yeah.
It's still creation. This is a great quote here. And I love anybody who drop a good Kurt Vonnegut quote, that nobody will stop you from creating. Do it tonight. Do it tomorrow. That is the way to make your soul grow.
Ooh.
Let that marinate too. Be present with this. Man, I just felt the energy of this just now. That just hit deep. And this is something that I wish more of us really took to heart on a day-to-day basis, that every single moment of every single day we are creating. The only time we're not creating is when we're living in the past because it's done and we can't create there, or in the future because it hasn't happened yet and we can't create there either. We can only create right now. So the more we lean into what we're doing in that mode of creation, and it doesn't have to be that classic type of creation that we think of. And don't get me wrong, that stuff is awesome. There's nothing like it. When I'm in the writer's zone, when I'm in that flow, man, it is as close to paradise as I could ever imagine, because time doesn't exist. My imagination runs wild. I'm in that place I call perfectia. That kind of that fifth vibrational consciousness, where everything is just connected immediately and anything is possible. And you become, now this is where the megalomaniac in me comes out. So bear with me for a second. You become the god of your own universe when you are in a place of creation. Doesn't matter how big or small that universe is. And it could be, like you said, just having a conversation with somebody and holding space to listen. That becomes your little micro universe. And you become its deity. And I know that rubs some people the wrong way, but I don't mean it in that sense, but you become the prime mover of that experience. And it's absolutely freaking magic. Natalia said, all personal reality creators. Chris, was there a moment in your life when this became really apparent to you?
That we are our personal reality creators.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this conversation, for example, because not many people know about this. I mean, you might hear that I'm not a native American or English speaker, and as opposed to many in my studies, I didn't go abroad to learn English. So I stayed. I grew up in Austria. I stayed there. I was always attracted to other cultures and to see Europe, which is very easy if you're living in Europe, if you have a European passport. I have a German one. But I always somehow felt there is this. I love Austria, but in a way, it was always a bit too small for me, and I always felt I just love other cultures so much and other people. I'm so interested in how they think, how they live, how they see the world, that I once was asking myself, I was marinating the question, should you write in German or in English? And then my English was not so good back then, so I wasn't so confident. And then one of my mentors asked me the question, how does your biggest dream world look like? Describe it to me. And then I told him, yeah, I want to be connected all over the globe with people and everything. And this was when I decided that my reality is writing in English. And it has opened up incredible opportunities for me over the last couple of years, next to the fact that my English got improved drastically, which is also a nice side effect that I'm very happy with. But you probably would have not invited me if I would have, I don't know, created content in German. And so many things happened because of that decision to become. And sometimes it's very hard, and you have no idea how much I was doubting myself, and sometimes still am. And I think it's something very human to do. It's like I'm not sitting here like eating the wisdom with a spoon, even though sometimes I would love that this is the reality. It's not. It's daily work and daily reminders and daily falling down and getting up again, getting up again one more time than you fell down. Yep. But yeah, this was one moment where I really realized the power of this. Yeah,
it's really powerful story, man. Thank you for sharing that. I think there's something that a lot of people, specifically who learn a second language, have an insecurity about, and I feel like it holds their energy back. I have the utmost respect for anybody who not only can learn a second language but can master a second language. And I speak for all 330 million of us across the pond over here when I say your English is as good or better than most of our English, and we grew up with this. And I don't mean that facetiously. No, I mean that very seriously. Your English is extraordinary, and it's crisp, and it's sharp, and it's expressive, and that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of intentionality. And because everything has to go through the filter of German first before it gets to English, and that's an extra step that native English speakers don't have, and native German speakers don't have when people here move there and try to pick it up. So that's a level of brain processing, which is extraordinary. And you should get a lot of credit for that, man. I give you a ton of kudos. And this is a comment here. And I think this is Sagel, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I can't lose myself in that moment because I know there are 1,000 things I'm supposed to be doing. And this is where the chatter, man, the chatter. The peanut gallery. How do we quiet that for a second? How do we say, like, simmer down, adults talk?
Yeah. Don't quiet it. Why quiet it? Okay. Like this is the recipe for suffering. Because what does it mean? It means I'm not okay with how it is. I'm not okay with, there are 1,000 things I'm supposed to be doing. If you like it or not, this is your reality. And I have a lot of compassion for this. And actually, this morning I was thinking similar thoughts. I was like, oh my God, like after this vacation, there's so many things to do. And then I started to even feel it in my body. I got a constricted chest and feeling a bit nervous and stressed. And then I reminded myself, if I like it or not, this thought is there. It's there, right? And what if it can be there? And what if I just let it be? What if I create a little bit of space between me and this thought? And I can do this by knowing that, this is a thought, or, this is a story. So in inside meditation, mindfulness meditation practice, we call this labeling. So I say, there is a thought. So you kind of catch it, okay? And then you look at it, that's a thought. And then you let it go and you allow it to, how I like to describe it, you allow it to fade back into the background. You allow it to fade into the background.
So it shows up, you see it.
Exactly,
let it go. Yeah.
Exactly. That is the practice. And the mind doesn't like that because it doesn't have something to grip to. And the mind loves gripping. It loves to recreate and relive this traumatic story or this fearful story. And what I like to do is, for example, with this, there's 1,000 things that I'm supposed to do. And this is a very, very, very courageous comment, I have to say, because it represents what many of us think on a daily basis, and it's very normal. Yeah. That it's very valid. It's very valuable to, again, it sounds a bit cheesy, but it works, to take a moment, to slow it down, and to look at the story. I can't lose myself in that moment because I know there are 1,000 things I'm supposed to be doing. And just ask yourself, first label it. This is a thought. Okay, so this is the story that I'm living right now, and this is the story. Coming back to the what we had before with creating your reality. This is the story that determines and that highly impacts your current reality, your perception of it. Right? So what if this is not true? What if you can lose yourself in the moment? Or what if you give yourself permission? That's my invitation as a thought experiment. What if you give yourself permission that whenever you have this thought, that you're like, okay, yes, I know this is happening, but I am still steering I'm still steering the car. I am on the driver's seat. And the metaphor that I like to use is many people want to, if we say we have some other passengers in the car, they want to kick the 1,000 things I'm supposed to be doing, thought or fear, they want to kick it out of the car, right? They want to stop on the highway and they want to kick it out, and then they want to advance. And because they're on the passenger seat, and these 1,000 things I'm supposed to be doing is on the driver's seat, okay? And because the driver on this in this car is not acknowledged, that's how I explain it to myself. And he doesn't get any attention. He's not really seen.
There's no love.
There's no love. There's no compassion. There is no, I understand. Okay, this is you. All right. And if we can negotiate with him and say, all right, so you can stay in the car. I might put you in the trunk. If you behave very, very, if you're a good boy, then you can be in the back row. If you're really good, then we just swap seats. You go to the passenger seat. But what if I'm driving this car? Yeah. And then he's like probably bored, or she, doesn't matter, like you choose. And then he's like poking you, like annoying you. Oh, it's coming again. 1,000 things that I'm supposed to be doing. Or, I can't lose myself in the moment. And then you go, it's all right. It's okay. I see you, but I'm still driving. And that is to bring this message home. We can and we must learn and train. We can do this through various meditation practices, awareness practices, or some people don't even need it, who are just taking these moments of acknowledging what's happening. We can trust that once we lean into this power of the awareness, the power of the observer, that we can always put ourselves back into the driver's seat, no matter what this passenger is telling me.
Powerful stuff.
Does that make any sense, what I just said?
100%. You had me thinking about a grand metaphor of a road trip where, you're heading from one side of a continent to another, and it's a long trip, and You know intuitively where you have to go. And yet, maybe you're on a road trip with a bunch of drunken buddies from college, and each one of them is three sheets to the wind, and they all have this great idea about what you need to be doing on your trip. So they're kicking the front seat, and they're flicking your ear in the back, and they're yelling, "Get off over here. Let's go get a bite there. Let's go get a beer here. Let's do this. Let's do it." And they're trying to distract you in 100 different ways. And if all you're doing is listening to that, you're never going to get where you're going, because you're going to feel like they're driving the car instead of you. Meanwhile, you can just smile, laugh, and say, "Yeah, I see you back there. I know you had one too many. All right." And you get, like you said, don't even tell them to shut up or simmer down. Just like let them do what they're going to do. Let them be what they're going to be. But you keep driving. You keep your eyes on the road.
Resistance creates more resistance.
That's just it. And what we resist persists. And that's true for everything. I think that's a beautiful analogy. I love the way you put that. The driver in the car. I think everybody watching, just think about that. Next time you feel like your thoughts are hijacked, what you're doing and where you're going, just remember, you have your hands on the wheel. You are in the driver's seat. It may appear like you're not. You could have difficult people in your life, challenging personalities, but you are the driver. No matter what they're yelling in your ear, no matter where they're screaming, you need to get off at this exit, and you are the driver. You are always the driver, no matter what. Wow.
And the great thing about this is also, if we disconnect this from the idea that this is not a finite game. There's no start and no end point. It's not a race.
Not a finite game, and we think this is, kind of a one-shot deal. But there's a kind of a, let's get metaphysical, man. Let's talk about the continuity of consciousness.
Can you repeat your question? I think I didn't hear you for last.
So that's okay. So let's talk about this idea of the continuity of consciousness, how we think it's this finite thing. We're born in this body and we die, and then that's it. And I think a lot of times we get lost in the past and the future because we're anchored to this idea of space-time as all there is. But if we take a step out, and this is something else where a lot of people have described the phenomenon of timelessness. I think that timelessness speaks to something much greater and much more profound, and I think much more real than what we consciously experience. What are your thoughts on that?
I would challenge much more real, because what is even real?
Good question. That's a good point. What
is even real, and how can we what is real? What is the definition of real? So we would need to come to a common understanding of what real means in order to really proceed with that thought. From my understanding, it has what it does do. From my understanding is there is the difference between wisdom that's deep within, and that's very strongly connected to this universal consciousness, and knowledge derived from information. It's a huge difference, and they interfere with each other, and they're somehow connected, as everything is somehow connected and in a way also dependent. But when we talk about this disconnection from time and space, if we are able to see it, the quality of seeing connects us with our wisdom, because it's not connected to time and space.
I'm going to chew on that one for a second. The quality of seeing connects us with our wisdom. And this is that kind of the third eye. It's that intuition. It's that deep knowing. I think when I think of this example, I think of a friend of mine, and she married a guy who on paper was absolutely perfect for her in every single way, checked every single box that she always wanted, her family always wanted for her. There was something deeply intuitive, and she knew he wasn't right. She knew it in that deep knowing, but she went ahead anyway. And I think this is where you said, the knowledge of living on this planet would say, well, that obviously it's the right choice. He'll provide financial security, and he's stable, and he's not going to end up behind bars for 30 years. Like, you know what you're getting with him. It's safe. You can raise a family with him, and you don't have to worry about him running out. And he's the guy. And yet there was something much deeper that said, no, something is wrong. Something is off. And it's just knowing that you can't always articulate in any language.
Yeah.
It's so deep and profound. So when that moment happens, when you feel this kind of tug of war happening between what you think you ought to do and what you deeply know you should, how are you able to slow down and discern that?
So I'm a very simple guy. And when I say I'm able to, how do I slow down? Then I just literally, sometimes to be really honest with you, force myself to do nothing. I just say, okay, now you sit for 20 minutes, half an hour. You just sit on your, yes, it's a meditation pillow, but it doesn't matter. You just sit and you do nothing. You don't even practice some meditation, even though the instructions are very, very, very basic, and it's not about like going somewhere. It's just, you don't even do that. I just sit. Don't do nothing. And then you get distracted. You go there. Oh, you go this. Oh. The only thing I do is I sit with curiosity. And I sit with looking at the stories of the mind. And then after a couple of minutes, you see patterns. You say, okay, this is an old story. No, you've been there already. Nope. And then by making consciously again, and by the way, I love how the cycles are just like closing and closing and closing in this conversation. I'm creating conscious time to see the pattern, to see the stories. And then by doing this, it helps me to let this other voice become a bit louder. The image that I have, or the metaphor, is this one. We have two wolves inside of us. And there is one who is who stands for our intuition, like this sensation that you described before. Yeah. And then there's the other one who stands for doing the logic part, like the thing that makes sense, and the other one stands for the thing that doesn't make sense. Now, if we keep on doing, and if we scroll on our phones, and if we, and I'm guilty of that too. Of course I am. Yeah. But if we do that, we are feeding the other wolf. And if we want to feed and nourish and nurture the wolf if we want to make that voice of intuition a bit louder, we need to feed the other wolf. And in order to make this happen, we need to create different circumstances. That's the thing. And that's the thing that I always try to explain, that I think even Albert Einstein, I would love that this is my idea, but it's not. I think he said that you cannot solve a problem with the same approach that you created it.
Absolutely.
And this is the thing that we need to understand when it comes to how can I quiet my mind, or how can I deal with difficult situations? Most likely not in the same way that led to the creation of the difficult moment.
Yes. And a great example of this is people who are on a spiritual journey, a spiritual search, if you will, and what kind of got them into this pickle, if you will, in a lot of situations was overdoing, overthinking. It's like, okay, so now my mind is racing at 1,000 miles a minute. I'm confused. I'm angsty. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to download every single podcast about meditation, about spirituality, about centeredness. I'm going to go to every retreat. I'm going to follow all the rituals. I'm going to burn all the incense. I'm going to go to all the tarot readings. I'm going to do all these different things. And then I got it. I'll be fixed. And shockingly enough, that doesn't seem to work.
No.
And it's the same filter. It's the same filter. And it's just running a different program through the same exact filter. and the same code. So of course you're going to get the same program. It's just going to look a little different. It may have a guru name now, and now it may move to Sedona, but it's the same exact program.
Yeah, it's the fundamental theme is that right now I'm not okay, and if I do whatever, then I'll be okay.
Yep. That's it.
So
That's how you got it. Only real thing is the consciousness itself, and it's quieting things to reconnect with that. And it's constantly at war with our creation versus the is. And I think Mark absolutely nailed it, because he's a pro at sitting and doing nothing. So he's the greatest guru that exists. He's the guy. He's certainly my guru. When I say I need a guru in my life, I do, and it's a Japanese paper maker. He's from Alabama. That's my guy.
Yeah.
Chris, this has been amazing, man. And I just want to, one thing I'd like to leave the audience with, something to take home with them, something they can implement immediately. So here's a question I have for you and for everybody out there. What is the one thing we can do every day to stay in the present?
Great question. Would you like me to give an answer, or would you like to leave it?
If there's anything that comes to your mind that you can share with our audience that you think they can implement simply, easily, and can take with them every day moving forward, what's one thing we can do every day to be present?
Yeah. So come back to the body, which means give you two options, because people have different preferences. Option number one is come back to the breath. And there we need to be more precise. Come back to the inhale. So whatever happens, remind yourself, okay, this is the story that's happening. This is the story that dictates my life. And I come back to the inhalation. I come back to the rising sensation of my abdomen.
Just that simple breathing.
It's just coming back. It's just coming back to the rising of the breath. And if you can't breathe or you don't like it, I mean, if you can't breathe, you have other problems.
True.
But the other thing, on a more serious note, is if we have 2 feet or one foot, then notice how gravity pulls you down. Just notice the contact of your feet on the floor, and notice how you don't need to do anything to feel that gravity is actually connecting you with the earth. And we can do this right now, in this very now moment. So I would like to invite everyone that is still on, and also you, Jeff, and myself. What if we just for a moment, just without woo-woo, without this crazy, we don't need all of that, but just notice the contact of your feet on the floor, or if you're wearing shoes, with your socks and the soles of your shoes. And then you come back to listening to us. That's already enough. That's one present moment that leaves a mark. That's something that my meditation teacher would always say, because I would always be like, yeah, but it was only one moment. It's not enough. It was not 10 minutes or not 1 hour or not, I was not fully mindful the entire day. Then I said, it doesn't matter, because every single acknowledgement, every single time that I'm aware of, this is what's happening. Okay, interesting. I'm coming back to the breath. I'm coming back to my body. This leaves a mark.
It's a constant.
And it's very beneficial. It's very beneficial for ourselves. And then, as a result, it's very beneficial for the people we love. It's also beneficial for the people we don't love. And then, as a result, it's very beneficial for the entire planet.
That's profound. And if each one of us can do that, 8 billion of us can find a way to stay grounded and come home, man, what a world we'd have. If all the 40-year-olds decided tomorrow morning I'm waking up and I'm 4, what a world we would have, man. God, it's awesome. I feel good. Mary, you nailed it. Calming. That's certainly how I feel. I feel great now. Chris,
Same.
I can't thank you enough. And you have got to come to our side of the pond so I can show you around Vienna, Virginia, the town that was the inspiration for the name of Vienna, Austria. And it's a great little town here. And speaking of that, the next guest on this program actually lives in Vienna, Virginia. The program will be coming back. So this is the last episode of season 1, and I'm really excited to have you as the bookend guest for this. Season 2 is going to begin on September 8th. So Friday, September 8th will be the next episode of 40 going on 4. Kicking off season 2, we have some awesome guests, starting with Olga Moshinsky from right here in Vienna, Virginia. We're going to have a lot of fun on that one. I got to tell you, man, this has been amazing. I am so grateful to you. You are a wonderful soul. Thank you for your time. I know you're on holiday right now because nobody in Europe works in August, and I think that's awesome, and I'm here for it. And man, hope you have the time of your life out there. And for everybody in the crowd, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you all have an amazing rest of the summer, and I will see you all on September 8th. Friends, love you all.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.